Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/eggshow. Audible has more than 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or just about any device you can imagine. As loyal listeners to the Eggs Show, you can download a free audiobook today by visiting audibletrial.com/eggshow. Again, audibletrial.com/eggshow for your free audiobook courtesy of Audible. Hey everybody, welcome to Eggs. Today's guest is Jamal Collins, AKA Jayworking. I met him briefly, or I should say he came into my awareness at the often discussed WMC Fest in Cleveland, where Jamal was a keynote speaker. He is a well-known graphic designer, speaker, and perennial podcast guest, but he's probably better known for the amazing work he does in his community. After years of decline and hardship in Cleveland, Jamal set out to create a program that offers graphic design training to underprivileged children in the hardest hit parts of town. A Cleveland native, he's decided to dedicate his life to rebuilding the city that he loves and giving opportunity to those who might not otherwise have it. He's a truly inspirational figure, and we're grateful to have him on the show. Ladies and gents, let's give a warm welcome to designer, educator, mentor, and community advocate, Jamal Collins.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you so much for making time to come on the show. We really appreciate it.
Definitely. That was an awesome intro. That may be the best I've heard.
All right. I like it. I'm happy to share it with you. Just make sure I get attribution.
For sure.
So before we dive in, so let me give a little background. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we have talked about, Jamal, I don't know how many or how much experience you have with this show, but we've had a lot of people that I was super grateful to meet out at WMC Fest on this show. A bunch of dudes that I met out there, designers and stuff like that. It was a really great experience for me. And so, but Jamal was a keynote speaker at that event, and some of the guys that I was running around with happened to know him or had seen him at other WMC Fests or whatever, which is based there in Cleveland. So I got an opportunity to meet him real quickly. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him. I think we might have done lunch or something with the crew, but nonetheless, he's a really influential guy. I really enjoyed his talk. And, after I left Cleveland, basically we didn't really talk again. Then I don't know, it's been a few weeks back. We sort of reconnected on LinkedIn or something. And Jamal had mentioned being available to do the show. And, I lit up like a giddy little girl because I was so Jamal is a really interesting guy. And more than anything, what I love, one of the key tenets, like in my business and everything, is this idea of personal relationships. And nobody does more, or nobody I know does more for people than Jamal does. He has got a public service program in Cleveland where he teaches these kids graphic design, and we'll let him talk about that a little bit. But for me, like, all that stuff was so impressive that, like, for a guy like Jamal to make time for us to talk was made me pretty happy. I was excited about that. So without any further ass kissing, let's talk a little bit about where you're from and where we got started.
Well, you're from Cleveland, right?
Yes, I'm from a little part of Cleveland called East Cleveland. So it's it's on the east side, obviously. So
having not been from there, I've seen some of your like YouTube videos driving around showing the community and stuff like that. It looks like pretty rough part of town.
Yeah, it didn't start off like that. I would say it was middle class. We moved there back in 75 when I was 5 years old. So it was definitely an upgrade from where we were. My father had landed a job at General Electric, and we had a lot of amenities back then where we were located. So this was like it was kind of cool because my neighborhood, like a couple houses up, we had everything we needed. So
nice.
Back then it wasn't no, Walmarts or anything like that. So the butcher, the barber, the deli, everything was right there. So
all local suppliers and vendors and stuff.
Yeah. And then things kind of started to turn for the worse in the 80s when I was in high school. So we definitely could see a decline. So people was leaving as fast as possible to get out of there. So
what was kind of spurring everything that, kind of brought on people wanting to leave versus was it, Detroit, it was the auto industry left. Is Cleveland kind of tied in with that?
Manufacturing and factories, definitely. Opportunities was lacking. Drugs was coming in. Tough charges for drugs was coming in too. So it kind of really put an uppercut jab into, the community as a whole. So,
yeah.
I kind of lived on the border of Cleveland Heights and East Cleveland. So it really didn't affect where I was at until I left for college. So it was definitely an avenue for guys to kind of think about growing up is I could sell some drugs and make some extra money and kind of make a killing doing this. So a lot of people were going that route. If you wasn't like a super duper scholar, they really wasn't trying to pull you in and recruit you for college or anything like that. So kind of the odds was, this lack of awareness of other options. So this was a route. A lot of guys jumped into going into the service, and literally after that, they were going to Desert Storm. So this was like 89, 90.
Oh yeah, I remember that time.
Yeah.
I actually have a Pepsi bottle with the Desert Storm commemorative one.
Well, it's funny. So, because maybe I'm just naive. Obviously everybody has heard about the problems in Detroit, and I guess for people that don't know, Cleveland is geographically very near Detroit. But for some reason, it seems like Cleveland was a little bit of a sleeper. Like maybe people didn't realize how bad it was, or how bad it's gotten anyway. And so I think it's interesting to hear that. Basically, over the course of your life, you watched the decline. Can you talk a little bit about? What was your family life like? Where did you get this sort of bug, or what is it that made you the guy you are now?
My family is close knit. It's not super big, but my parents are still married. So I had, two sets of grandparents. I was lucky to have them in my life as well. So I did have this structure. Yeah.
In most people these days, I wouldn't say most people, a lot of people don't get that these days. Most people are, mom and dad have split and they're having 2 Christmases, and, it's
right.
not the,
Well, so do you think it was your family being close like that sort of, I don't know, gave you the strength to get through some of these struggles? Because it seems like growing up as a youth, when I think I read somewhere or heard somewhere that, like you alluded to, the drug problem or cocaine was becoming a real big issue there. It'd be pretty easy for a youth growing up to get wrapped up in all that stuff. And it seems like largely you were able to avoid it. Do you attribute any of that to your family or sort of the tight-knittedness of your family?
Definitely, but I want to say that the odds was in my favor because even with the tight-knit family, I was kind of headed in the wrong route. It was just a matter of time for me to, even with the support wasn't enough. So I had guys who had the same structure, and they kind of, his first offense landed him in jail for 15 years. So it was like a thin line between, making the wrong move, and it would kind of cost you your life.
Right. So at what point did you, I don't know that much about your design background. Are you an artist by design, by trade, or are you a graphic designer? And what sort of, nudged you into picking up the pen or picking up the mouse?
Yeah. As far as I can remember, I was always drawing. So I was always doing illustrations, as far as I can remember, 5 years old. And I kind of fell in love with Marvel and about, I want to say 11 and 12. And then popular culture with hip hop came in. So I kind of gravitated towards graffiti. So I kind of leaned heavy on doing graffiti, and I kind of fell in love with that. So, and there was some other guys around me that was top graffiti artists. We didn't have any trains or anything, but guys were definitely bombing down by our train system. So, it was some vocational programs at my school. It was a lot of them. It's so funny. We got access to our old yearbook, so I'm looking through there and I'm seeing all of these different things we had. It was amazing. We had golf, we had volleyball, we had. The one thing that I do know we had was commercial arts, but I couldn't get in there because of my grades. But I never really pushed hard. I kind of talk about this a lot. Pushed hard on my parents to get me in there because you had Art 1 and Art 2, and then the next move was to go to commercial arts, the vocational program. So that was my problem. I never got in there.
So coming out of high school and not having that, the commercial arts program to kind of get you, your foot in the door, steer you there. What did you do different to kind of get into it later on? Like, did you go to college later on, or did you just kind of build a portfolio and start putting your work out there?
Actually, I went to college, and I had a buddy who he had graduated. He graduated. I visited Ohio University in the 9th grade. So he had graduated and he was already on campus, and he was cool with us. He told us to come and visit. So me and my buddy jumped on the Greyhound, and I came back a changed man. My mother didn't know who I was. I was like, I need to do my ACTs. Because it wasn't no internet yet. So doing your ACTs and SATs was like you had to, fill out the paperwork manually and mail it off. It wasn't like I could just type in universities and see, my financial aid. So it was like, you had to have a counselor really put the stuff and sit you and your family down, because my parents didn't go to college. My mother has a master's degree now, but I was the first person to go to college in my family. Because, back then, 70s and 80s, it really wasn't practical. It really didn't have to be, you didn't really have to go to college if you didn't want to. My father just got a good job, paying good money. So if you could just go to LTV Steel and just get a job making buku money. So.
Yeah. Is that what he did? Was he a steel worker?
He worked at General Electric.
Nice.
Yeah.
And just as a side note, what's your mother's master then?
What is it? A business administration.
Oh, nice. Well, that's really cool. So, do you get some of, clearly you're a little bit entrepreneurial. Is that something that ran in your family?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, they was workers for the most part.
So you grew up sort of surrounded by that hardcore work ethic.
Right. Yeah. So I never needed anything, we never needed anything. So I never moved. So we wasn't moving a lot. So I had structure. I had all the latest Jordans. So I was pretty much, we was middle class. So I had stuff,
Yeah, well, and I know that, one of the drums that you beat a lot is about hard work and effort and putting in that time and stuff like that. And so it sounds like maybe that comes a little bit from your family. When you came back a changed man and got yourself into, it was University of Akron, is that right?
Yes.
University?
Yes.
What did you do in college? Was it a graphic design program or?
When I first got there, I was political science. I wanted to be a lawyer with an art studio. So somebody said, why don't you just be an artist? I was like, damn, you're right. I didn't know this was like an option. So I poked my head in the art building, and they had something called, graphic design, illustrations, paintings, and stuff like this. And, the whole philosophy of being an artist back then was starving artists. So, this was like right when they was bringing the computers in. We didn't even have internet in the computer lab at this point. This was like 91.
Yeah.
So, it was like the perfect timing, because anybody who graduated before 90 didn't get that computer training that I was getting, an introduction to Photoshop. Maybe they was getting it, at the workplace, but.
Was Photoshop around that early in like 90, 91? Or was it just?
I think it was like the first one. We was kind of beta testing it. I don't think it didn't have any undos. I think I was making multiple documents because I didn't have that many layers. We was using a program called Freehand and Illustrator. So Freehand was like Illustrator.
How funny. Yeah, no, Photoshop, like version 0.7 dropped in 88. So by the time you're in college in like June 91, they could have been in version 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's pretty early Photoshop. It's a far cry from what it can do nowadays. So I guess what I'm trying to drill down to. So, obviously you're a talented guy, artistic fella, went to school, learned some graphic design. What happens after you get out of school? Where do you go from there?
I landed a job at PricewaterhouseCoopers, but I kind of landed some other jobs. I landed a cool job before that, because this was a little bit before. So this is 97. So this is a little bit before Silicon Valley and all that happens. So it's like this rush of, HTML. What you see is what you get. Dreamweaver. We doing 3D Max. I was doing 3D Max and DOS. So this, I'm thinking of introducing to, we doing DVDs, and I was doing all of this stuff. And then I kind of bounced around a little bit, and I landed my first good paying job at Price Waterhouse, and they merged with Coopers and Lybrand and went from that to Price Waterhouse Coopers.
What was
stayed
there?
My position was I was a graphic designer, so I was responsible for all the collateral for the accounting firm. They had their own printing services, so I was able to do everything in-house.
So I assume with accounting as the driving factor, it wasn't the most glamorous work ever?
Man, it was horrible. It was horrible. It was okay until they administrated the brand guidelines. So the brand guidelines, it was very challenging. I had to try to figure out how to stay within these guidelines and still pull off something cool. So I don't think they really liked me a lot. So they was really trying to keep me confined, and, they didn't really want me to shine too much because I was doing stuff in Flash.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was like the
It was pretty cutting edge at the time.
Yeah, Flash was like everyone wanted the Flash site.
Definitely.
Forever to load.
Well, so obviously you're working with a lot of kids growing up now, and the world is a lot different. Can you, do you count yourself lucky? So for me, you're a little bit older than me, but we're sort of contemporaries in age. And, I sort of have a similar trajectory. I think I started in Photoshop 5. And but sort of self-taught and learned how to do it all myself and all that stuff. And but what I found is that just because of my age and sort of having a period of my life ahead of the internet and a period of life after the internet, I was able to sort of cull together all those skills, some programming, some HTML, some Flash, some, illustration, design, all those things and nowadays people are a lot more focused. Do you think you're sort of, I guess, maybe a more well-rounded designer because of just strictly being how old you are?
I think so. Yeah. Cause I was inside of DOS. So it started just my friend had called me and was like, look, man, this was around 90. This was before I went to PricewaterhouseCoopers. He was like, we got to jump on this website stuff. They're making websites. So it was always, we wanted to stay on top of stuff just to, keep our sword sharpened. So, it was understanding code and, DVDs, action scripting, getting in Director. So, a lot of guys don't know nothing about this stuff. So I definitely would say yes to that.
Yeah, that's my experience. So it's interesting to hear that too, because this is happening sort of in parallel with your story.
Yeah, I was editing video on Premiere back then.
That's fantastic. Well, and I guess also through your opportunity at Price Waterhouse, you had the opportunity to learn pre-press and actually work, in press before everything became digital, which I've found, at least in my experience, that knowing how to actually print stuff is a pretty valuable skill nowadays because a lot of kids don't grow up with that.
Right. The thing, my problem with PricewaterhouseCoopers is I had poor people skills at the time.
That's something that I think comes with age. I have poor people skills still.
I know. That's why I kind of deal with the kids mostly.
Yeah, no, well, and that's pretty key, and I imagine it's something you guys focus on in your work with the kids because people skills are pretty key, actually. And a lot of people don't feel like kowtowing or behaving a certain way around people or whatever, but it's a real life learning that you've got to treat people the right way.
Yeah, definitely.
If you want to get ahead anyway.
Exactly, you nailed it.
So speaking of the kids. Talk about that for a little bit. How'd you get involved? You work with the Boys and Girls Club. You teach design. And I think on your website you call it Creative Kids.
Yes.
Can you break that down for us? How you got into that? What motivated you to do that? And just kind of give us a brief overview.
Yeah, sure. So what happened is that the economy tanked and that left me out of work. And I was searching for clues, trying to be a designer. It wasn't working out. And I was, suffering from this for a long time. I was unemployed for 5 years. And yeah. So I had read a little article like people might not want to hire you if they see a large gap. You know how you search for stuff in Google and it just kind of break your heart. So I started volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club, and I saw an opportunity to teach. And then was in a tough areas, kind of outside my comfort zone. And then, I just did it. So I have no teaching background at all. And this area was rough and tough. So I guess it was a good initiation to get me started, going. I seen some consultants coming in, and I was like curious how that worked because I don't think they really knew I was a designer. I think they just thought I was an artist. So maybe they knew, but they didn't know to the extent. Yeah. So we had an event for the kids, and I did some posters pro bono for corporate, and they was kind of like, wow, we know you could do this. So at the same time, I kind of mentioned, like, I seen some IMAX, let me, put the Creative Cloud on there and teach these guys something that they can really, value from it. So
what time is this? How long ago?
It's been 4 years since I did that. So I only worked as an art instructor for a year, and after that I resigned and came back as a consultant. And at the time, I think I was moving at 2 locations, and it kind of grew to 7. So I average about 100 kids a month. A lot of the stuff I do kind of, raise some more eyebrows in other places. So I'm at another school district at Richmond High School. It's a smaller district, but they have a cool program for coders for the middle school. So I kind of teach them graphic design with the coders.
That's cool.
And I teach junior college during the day, cinematography. Some of my videos on my vlog kind of got some attention from some professor at one of my professors at Tri-C. So that's Cuyahoga Community College. So I do that, and also do some workshops at a place called PNC Fairfax. If you could catch me, I do one-on-one, with kids too. So parents want to get some one-on-one training. So we might meet at a coffee shop or something, and we get it in.
So can you talk about the Boys and Girls Club, what it is, how kids, I have a roommate that I think was pretty involved in the Boys and Girls Club when he was a kid, but I never really, it wasn't part of my life. I don't know anything about it. Is there like an age limit where you can start coming, and then you just kind of come after school and hang out while your parents are at work? And
yeah, definitely. So it's different locations spread out. Some of them have school sites, so they're within the school. Some of them have their own locations. It's an after-school program, and I don't know how early it is, but I think school agers all the way up to 18. So they have different brackets. They have homework support. They have meals. They have activities. They have stuff for, the boys, something called like Passport to Manhood. And then they have programming coming in. So we have a band program. We have ballet, and we have, me doing graphic design. And they may have like some hip hop dance, African drums, things like that. So they go on, a lot of field trips, they have a lot. It's a big, probably one of the largest nonprofits. So they have huge partners like the Cleveland Browns and Indians. So they get their teeth cleaned at the Cleveland Indians Stadium and all this stuff like that. So it's amazing stuff that they could do. They got college programs that they could, send kids to college. And we have me coming in and giving them something more than just, crayons and markers, really giving them something tangible that they could turn into a workforce opportunity. And
TV and saying, hey.
So I've been in there for a while, so I could kind of talk about some of the issues. So
where does the funding come from like this?
Government grants, donations, and fundraising.
Okay.
Yeah. So since it's a large scale nonprofit, they have, high salary people, they have buses and, bus drivers, so they can go after the big dollars to get the big dollars to do stuff.
So this is a nationwide thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool. Well, and I guess in a city that's suffering like Cleveland, the Boys and Girls Club and programs like yours are really great places to keep kids off the street and help sort of give them some positive direction in life. I was watching one of your videos of sort of just you were just driving through parts of East Cleveland, and I mean, I actually commented to Mike while we were sitting here watching it. I was like, this is an American city. Like, this is middle of the United States. And I mean, it looks like war torn, I mean, it looks like third world out there. Yeah. And so for these kids, that have to even if they have a good family and good everything at home, just having to walk through that on the way to get to somewhere or whatever is, really troubling. And so I think it's really, notable what you're doing, to give back to your community in that way. I guess, is there something in your life that you could point to that sort of led you in the direction of community service? Like, I mean, you mentioned that you were a designer yourself, but there's clearly a switch. Like, was there something in your upbringing or something that sort of gave you that itch to help community?
Yeah, I think the main thing is I know what I needed. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have no Boys and Girls Club, and I kind of lacked a lot of advice. We kind of was just learning as we go. And that could be bad, learning where learning from your mistakes, because your mistake could land you in prison.
Yeah.
Or land you, strung out on drugs. Like some of it, we was dabbling in this stuff. So we definitely needed extra support outside of, the parents. Definitely. Yep. So, like I was making crazy mistakes in college. Like this is, retarded for me to be doing some of the stuff I was doing in college. Like, so I feel like if we would have had some advisors to point us like, you guys should be running a company, starting a company now type of thing. So these are the discussions I have. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Good. No, so let me ask you then. Sorry, I get excited and then I start going, ooh, I have a question. So one of the things, and I think it's what we're tiptoeing around, but this is something I've asked a number of different CEOs and high-level executives and stuff that have come on the show, as well as some founders and things like that of different companies. And I think you're sort of alluding to this, so maybe it's just an extension of what you're talking about. But I wanted to talk to you about that importance of mentoring. So you said that part of what you think sort of took you in the direction of helping out all these kids was that you were missing out on something like that. But was there ever a point in your life, or was there a person you could point to, sort of like, the guy that sort of convinced you that college was the way to go? Like, do you have mentors in your own life who have sort of helped you out with this, or in your design career, or, in your community service work?
I think my best mentors is the ones I look at online. So, I guess it's really no different. But yeah, I do have a couple, guys that have successful businesses I could talk to. I got a lot of relationships now because of the work I've done and the exposure I get. So it's kind of easy for me to make phone calls. So I try to call people and get advice as much as possible. But, I kind of look at the, forefathers of business and read a lot of books and look at a lot of videos on, creative thinkers. So, I try to get as much inspiration from that as possible. And then I can just, take what I learned and pass it down to these guys type of thing. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know why, but like in my own life, I've never been particularly good about having mentors. But like as I reach out and I start to meet more people and learn more people, I see kind of what I've been missing out on. So I think that it was an interesting point that mentorship, even though maybe at the time you didn't have it in your own life, that you felt compelled to give that to other kids. That was the thing that you could have used when you were growing up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of had that yearning feeling in myself. Like it was always kind of inside of me, like, dang, I wish I could have somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially in corporate, like I ain't had, like I said, my people was blue collar. So they ain't know nothing about emails and, dealing with the politics of the corporate life. So I'm like, man, I'm kind of stuck here or lost or couldn't get my way out because I was there for 10 years.
Even just a basic business, like filing the paperwork to set up a business and then doing the taxes and then doing all that stuff that you just, having someone that's already been there and done that, it makes all the difference in the world. Just having someone you can ask questions to. Exactly. I can't even imagine trying to do, that without even, having access to the internet because it wasn't around at the time, and B, not having anyone to talk to about it, So, I guess props for getting as far as you have without
that. Yeah, thanks.
I think you're right. And, of course, now in today's day and age, with technology and stuff, maybe these mentors and people that folks look up to are more accessible than ever. You can hit them up on Twitter or Instagram,
right.
Or, whatever. So maybe you have better access to somebody who might be important to you or might be beneficial to you as a mentor. But yeah, I definitely think it's something that kids should be engaging with even at younger ages. I think the purpose of Boys and Girls Club is more to help underprivileged, but I think really most kids could benefit from, those types of programs and after school activities, versus just going home and getting on Fortnite for 4 hours.
But the problem is that they had the Boys and Girls Club on Fortnite. So, I'm trying to come in there. I'm just being honest, man. So I try to come in there and try to, wake them up because, the thing is, and I get it, it's after school. So I talk about this a lot. They've been in school all day. So we got this after school. We got, like I said, school sites. So some of them don't even leave. The Boys and Girls Club have a relationship with the school. So at 3:00, they just transition to some other rooms in the school and they're there from 3 to 7. So they don't want to do any type of studying or learning outside of that type of thing. So they just want to play basketball. But, go ahead.
You find that the topic, design and, if they have like a coding program or something like that, do you find that certain kids are more, compelled to be involved because of the graphic design aspect of it versus like if, they're just there and have to do math homework?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
The nerdy, geeky kids, yeah, but the sports guys, they want to just play ball.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when I pull them in the corner, I'm telling them, like, you still got to create content. Like, I don't care what it is. Like, you should be creating content. You have to. Like, it's social networks. Like I talk about this, there's no resumes and saying to whom it may be concerned. Them days is over. They want to pull you up and see if you are what you say you are. So guys need to really, still poke their heads in there and understand how to do video and understand marketing. And, so it's still, it's still urgency.
That's the one problem in Cleveland. Well, until recently anyways, you had LeBron.
I was just going to bring that up.
Because of LeBron, everybody wants to be a baller now. So,
right.
But you also look at LeBron and you see what he's doing with this college.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? I haven't really done much research on it. It looks like free tuition, free everything. And
yeah, it's awesome. I salute him. I wish I could do it. I want to get to that point.
Yeah, I think it's cool that he has the funding and the finances to put something like that together, and he's actually doing that.
Yeah.
I think there's like a GPA cutoff and all sorts of other like criteria just to get into it. But just the fact that he's putting that out there, props to him. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I salute him. I definitely do. Just something about giving back. You know what I'm saying? It's like my life changed when I stopped kind of worrying about me and working my way up the corporate ladder and being a designer. And I just started giving back and kind of showing that connection. I think that's what it is. I just show a connection that I make with them. And, you can feel it. It's something you can feel. So, I try to be authentic and genuine with what I'm doing. And, I try to show a lot of gratitude towards people. I think that's the number one thing that I didn't have at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I'm kind of following status quo, work my way up the ladder, do as I told, follow this manual, these brand guidelines, make no waves, because that's kind of, that was what we were promised. What we were promised was a pension at the end of the day. So that's what, my parents, I was born in 1970. So this was a little bit after Martin Luther King, the Black Panthers was still around. So, to come out of civil rights and actually have a chance at, a piece of the pie, that's what we wanted to do. So we didn't want to shake up and make any waves in at the workforce. So I was kind of raised off of that. So that's kind of my philosophy when I came into PricewaterhouseCoopers. But the thing is that we have to shake up. We have to, rattle the cage because that's the only way we're going to be indispensable. So this is what I learned now is, standing out, not really caring, doing stuff outside my comfort zone.
We lost him.
This is the success I've had.
Okay. Hey, Jamal, we lost you for just 1 second. I don't know what happened. Just a little internet glitch or something.
Oh, okay. I was on a roll.
Yeah,
it was just like the last little bit of what you just said there. We
maybe
couldn't
the last
hear.
couple sentences.
Yeah.
I was kind of talking about just staying safe and keeping our heads down was very practical, getting a piece of the pie. But that's no longer the case. You got to stand out. And the only way to be indispensable is to, go outside your comfort zone and, do stuff that I guess I was talking about rattling in the cage or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's true, this idea. So in your case, just to sort of bring it back to your story, you mentioned, you were out of work for 5 years and then you were looking for something new. And basically you had to shift gears. You had to get out of your sort of comfort bubble and start doing something else. And so how much of the time that you spend with your kids, you're mentoring them, you're teaching them a hard skill, but how much time do you dedicate to things like, starting a business or, changing their mindsets or, realizing that they can really be anything they want to be, they can't be held back by whatever. Like how much of your mentorship is just that kind of stuff, trying to set up good frames of mind?
I think I want to say 70%.
Yes.
I kind of learned a lot by videotaping my class. When I started videotaping my class, I could kind of see my style of teaching and kind of the life lessons that they need because it's they dealing with grades, they still dealing with home life, they're dealing with peer pressure and girls and guys and all of this stuff. And I can kind of see some of the stuff they doing when I come in there. You could just look at the YouTube, the algorithm, and if all I see is Fortnite and Beyonce dances and all of this stuff, I know that their attention is in the wrong area.
Yeah.
So it's a balance. I don't think they have none. They're just totally consumers. A lot of them, they don't create anything. They just look at stuff and play games. That's it.
Do you think the social aspect of like Facebook and Instagram and everything, do you think that's kind of putting like a barrier in between like actually learning? Like I could see it going both ways. I could see like people seeing stuff on like their Instagram, like how did they make this video? How did they do that? And be curious and want to try and replicate it, or people just, wasting time and having no interest in any of it. They just want to be the consumer, like you said.
They want to just be the consumer. I don't think they understand. I kind of talk about mind hacking with the social networks and the likes and the dopamine, spikes in dopamine by this stuff. And sometimes I even get caught in it. So it's a strong pull on a teenager. He doesn't know about, logging off or, looking kind of deeper into stuff. So it's just, it's just awareness. Like, how do you make money on YouTube? They never had this conversation with anybody.
They never.
Yeah. So monetizing and looking at analytics and marketing and A/B testing and all of this stuff. The thing is, they don't know the urgency. That's number one. If they're single parent homes and they're struggling already, they don't know that they need to get themselves together quick. This is another thing. I think another problem is that they don't know that they can make money right now.
Yeah.
Like, set up a PayPal account, show your talents. People will hire you at any age. You just got to show your talent. So
there's a comment or quote or I don't know what to call it on your website, on your Creative Kids page that says, "Creative kids, we aren't waiting for college."
Exactly.
And I think that is, a really good message because I think, the way that sort of, people are sort of traditionally taught is, you go to school and you go to college, and if you're a success, you'll go to college, and that's the way to be successful. But as we've interviewed a number of different people on this show with education platforms and things like that, it's clear to me anyway that what education looks like is changing. And so, like you're saying, we can, or, for these young kids, I have an 11-year-old son who's like now really into Photoshop, and now he's dabbling in iMovie, and he's cutting, little YouTube videos and stuff. And, he's having a ball with it. But what he doesn't even realize is that he's building practical skills, and he's 11. He's going to be able to turn that stuff into work, in the next few years. And, and he doesn't even think about it, or doesn't, it requires that mind shift, and he's lucky enough to be growing up in the house with a designer. Well, lucky, I say he's lucky. He probably wouldn't say he's that lucky. But growing up with somebody that, has been in the business a long time and knows design and knows, this industry. But, for a lot of these kids, they don't come from that. They have a hard home life, or they have a hard social life, or a hard whatever it is. And, they may not realize, maybe college seems out of reach, so therefore everything's out of reach, when you can be shifting their minds to realize, you can be anything you want to be, like, for reals. Everybody says you can do whatever you want, but you really can do it.
Yeah. The problem of a lot of them has this entitlement too. So a lot of them come in with their fancy clothes and shoes. They got new iPhones. So they kind of got everything they want almost. They have no restrictions too. So that's kind of the problem too.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I see that even in my own kids. They just they don't want for things the same way we did. Amazon is just a click away now. You can get anything you want, like you were talking about earlier with the ACTs and having to mail them in and all this stuff. Everything's at a click nowadays. And so, you're not feeling those hunger pains. So you're trying to create that in somebody because they're not getting it from their environment.
Yeah. Another problem I have is I don't know how the family structure is. So, the parents may have, lack of technology experience. They may not have, some of them don't have computers at home. So, it's hard to try to, sit and do what I'm telling them to do. And you got a football flying past your head. So some of them do need to be able to quietly work at home. Like you said, your son is at home working on Photoshop. It's kind of tough when you got guys pulling you like, come on, type of thing. So, I definitely need more parent engagement. Definitely.
Do you think that that's maybe the next step in sort of the Creative Kids program is involving more parents? You mentioned doing some one-on-one with adults and things like that.
Yeah, I've been moving towards that way. The year before I spoke at Weapons of Mass Creation, I went to see Jay Wallace and took my kids to a workshop. And this time I split the tickets. Instead of just giving to a bunch of kids, I gave them to my top kids and their parents, so their mothers could come and see and talk and ask questions and things like that. So some of them know, but it's all about, letting them know, giving them that awareness. I've done 2 events with some of my design friends called Spark 216. And this is like a design day. We just had one this past weekend from like 12 to 5, and we definitely have a parenting piece. The other piece is matching kids up with design professionals and doing some design thinking. And which was cool. The first time I kind of used this was we used Adobe Spark.
Yeah. No, actually, Adobe Spark is where my son started, where I was going to have him start doing some social media work for us. And Adobe Spark is this cool little platform for anyone who doesn't know what it is. It's web-based and application-based. And you can build little graphics. You can take stock photography and drop words over top of it. You can do all this stuff, but you can do it on your phone or you can do it on their website. And it's a cool little platform.
Animated, right? So you can have you
can do
your
some
logo.
Basic animation and things like that. Yeah, it's really cool. And so, but it definitely, lowers the barrier. It's easy to get into and start using it. And now I think you can do Spark Video and Spark
exactly. Stuff. It sucks for us as designers, but
our biggest competition is somebody's cousin or somebody's neighbor. But now it's turning into this
in middle school.
Yeah, it's a tough business for sure. And so, but I think that the type of coaching that Jamal is doing is really key, especially for building sort of the future generations of designers. I guess, are you seeing any trends or anything that you've noticed working with the kids? Like you mentioned, the entitlement being a problem. Like, have you found any ways to sort of overcome that kind of thing? I mean, I know that that's an issue that's rampant with everybody I know that has kids, but there is sort of this entitlement, and people just aren't as hungry as they once were. Have you found anything that works with your kids, not necessarily your kids, but kids in your program, to help them overcome that sort of sense of entitlement and get that hunger in their belly again?
I think once they start creating stuff, if they sit with me for a couple sessions, they definitely get it. They want to hang out with me. They're showing me stuff. They still kind of following me on social networks. So a lot of them still lean towards me, towards a little, different things. So I do see some, progress, definitely. Definitely.
That's good news.
Yeah. I just kind of wake them up. I'm like the cool uncle. I kind of ask them, like, who's in a single family home in this group? They raise their hand. Who only got one car in here? They raise their hand. So I let them know, like, y'all really need to wake up to this urgency. Like, I will not stop until I get some guy working for Google out of my camp type of thing. I want them to be able to make money. Like, guys, y'all can make money now. Just got to show the work.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the hurdle to overcome, right? Is that entitlement kills that work ethic.
It do.
And it's sure easy to not work. It's, there's so many things to do, Fortnite included, I'm saying because my kid has discovered it. He resisted against it. He said it was dumb for liking it. And then into it, and I can't pull him away from it.
It's crazy. I'm doing 6 free sessions with PNC Fairfax, and I, put the word out. I had some people come, but I feel like it should be people knocking over the door, like running in there as fast as possible. So I don't, it's still a lot of work that needs to be done. But, I fill up the class, but I feel like it should be overfilled with some free classes. Come on. Yeah. I had a guy, he said he had a computer. He had some type of computer. I said, meet me at the library on Sunday, and I'm going to load it up with Adobe and everything you need. And I was like, you got to call me because I'm not coming to that library unless you call me first. He never called.
I get that all the time. I don't know if you know my backstory at all. I'm a DJ. And I get all these kids coming in the club. They see me do my thing. They're like, oh, that's so awesome, man. I'd love to do this. I'm like, yeah, just hit me up. I'll show you the basics. I'll teach you, like how to beat match, how to load Serato, and how, do the basics kind of thing. Just get them started. 9 out of 10 times, no one ever replies. No one ever calls back. And I'm always down to help because I think it's cool. I had someone do that for me when I was that age, and it makes a difference in the world. And so I'm always down to help. But 9 times out of 10, they never even get back to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know if it's just the fact that they're nervous to actually reach out and go one-on-one outside of the club or whatever. But I'm always down to help, and I think it's cool when people give back. Actually, there's someone I think that you should get in touch with. His name is Ryan Carson.
Okay.
The CEO of Team Treehouse. And he's actually currently, he works with the Boys and Girls Club in Portland to offer free training and stuff in the coding, like, web development kind of thing.
Yeah. Treehouse is an online platform for training kids training anybody in design languages and programming languages.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Treehouse. Yeah.
And so we had him, the CEO is this guy, Ryan, that Mike's talking about. And we had him on the podcast not too long ago.
Oh, cool.
And he actually is coming from a lot of the same spots as you are. Maybe we can make an introduction for you because he's definitely got the same sort of motivators. It's not about money with him. It's about teaching kids. And he's got a real emphasis on underprivileged kids and children of color who maybe don't see programming and technology jobs as an option for them.
Cool.
Because they don't see their peers or people like them in the industry. And so he's putting a ton of energy into trying to change that perception. And he would be a really good guy for you to meet. For
sure. Awesome. Can you set up a introduction for me?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Chris Doe's another one too. We were talking to him, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and he's based out of LA. But one of the comments in our conversation that I really liked was, he's like, if I ever have a kid or someone whose parents are like doubting, getting into this field or design field or whatever, bring them by the studio. I'll talk to the parents. I'll give them one-on-one, talk finances, whatever we need to do to get some motivation there to where they can actually, be involved in it. And I love people like that. I love people who just take that step and just be, proactive and try and change the community and change the environment.
Well, this is these are the future creators. They're going to create the next Snapchat, the next Uber and all of this stuff. So it starts with them. So you got to plant the seeds, and make the place a better place, man. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. Working with the younger generation, the 10, 12-year-olds who, they're still very creative. I mean, they haven't really kind of gotten into I need to be popular and, sit back and be quiet and reserved and shy. They're more outgoing. They're more, I think their imagination's still developing and still part of their daily lives. Do you ever draw from them? Like, I mean, I'm sure as a designer, you're like, oh, yeah, that really is a good idea. I should try that.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. That's my core group is like 7th and 8th graders, because once they get it, the first thing, if I tell them like, all right, I'm just going to let y'all just have free time. They like that more than my assignments. So I just let them. So I got like I got a big group on the west side of Cleveland, and these guys just love designing. And, I always tell a story about one of them. He's my top designer. He kind of goes above and beyond. His name is Elijah, and he can't spell, but he's like one of my best designers, even better than some of my older students. He kind of says he uses Google to spell his words. So I kind of work with him on that, but I definitely let the teachers know that, look, this guy is my top guy. So they're like, really? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cool because, like there are those guys, the guys that, might have trouble with math, might have trouble with spelling, might have trouble with just and it might be something like dyslexia or something like that. But in the creative world, it's entirely different. They can just sit down and draw and they can do their thing, and that might open doors to later on help, the spelling or the math come with it.
Exactly.
Props, man. I really like what you're doing.
Thanks.
So
appreciate
thank you for that.
Well, Jamal, let's transition a little bit to the future and where you're headed. So I think you mentioned that you were working on a YouTube channel and you're hoping to drive some traffic there. What are you trying to do with your YouTube channel, or what do you hope to do with it?
Just using it as an exposure piece to what I'm doing. I'm just trying to raise my subscribers, actually. So that's Jayworking at my YouTube channel. I put a lot of content on there. My website is jayworking.com as well. I'm just trying to expand to have just so I could be at more places, more locations. So
is the idea going forward then to continue building your program, or what's the future look like for Jamal?
Yeah, I want to build the program to more locations, volunteers, employees.
Do you have the aspiration of taking it outside of Cleveland, or do you think that this is something that stays homegrown in Cleveland and it stays there?
Definitely Ohio for the most part, because I went to Akron University too, so I would like to spread my wings in Akron. I want to, I'm very ambitious at this point. I'm still kind of young. So I'm looking at Akron. I got some good ties in Columbus. So Akron and Columbus next once I get Cleveland going, So I want to be in more schools, more after-school programs, be able to have an avenue where kids can kind of log in and get some one-on-one coaching, maybe online on a platform like this as well. I don't have that service yet. So I'm kind of thinking about, this is kind of on the back burner, but maybe a podcast where, a student can kind of log in and kind of chat with you guys. So,
yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that'd be really cool. And actually, there's a couple platforms out there nowadays that make doing sort of a rough podcast pretty easy, so kids can start broadcasting and like you were talking about earlier, generating content. Because really that seems to be sort of the name of the game, is just putting out content.
Yeah, definitely.
And making sure that content is of value. We're not just talking about, nonsense, but actually get out there and share some information of value. And one of the ways that you do that is through keynote speaking and public speaking. I had the pleasure of hearing you at WMC Fest. How do you feel about speaking? Like, is that something you like to do? I know it at least it looks to me, as somebody sort of in this industry, that, I mean, because I'm somebody who definitely does not like doing public speaking. But I feel like it's becoming a pretty big part of what it means to be a creative nowadays. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I've been appointed to be a leader, so I have to, because I'm a bridge between, you guys, people who's been in the game for a long time in the inner city, to let them know that, this is the best position you could be in as a designer, because I don't need a marketing person. I don't need a video person. I can do everything on my own. So I think we are the most valuable people. They just need to learn how to package their intellect. So that's the main goal. So I definitely know that it's a must to, be a public speaker and, preach the gospel about, being a designer and, recruiting more design mentors to come out and give back and make the community better by, raising these little future creatives.
So I think I heard that you have 7 kids.
Yes. My oldest is 25. My youngest is 2. So I got two grown ones, and I got 2 babies, and I got 2 little. I got the middle ones. I kind of break them off into little sections like that. So I got a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and 8-year-old. So them the ones who kind of can hang out. And then I got a 2-year-old and 4-year-old. I kind of call them the twins because they're the same size. Then I got 2 grown kids.
Are you?
I'm at the library right now. I couldn't possibly pull this podcast off at home.
Too much noise.
Right.
Yeah. No, we're at a co-working space for the same reason. My boys are out for the summer, so there's no silence around the house.
Do any of them kind of pick up on your design? Do they want to be involved in Dad's career?
I don't know if they, my daughter was like, I was out somewhere and somebody approached me and she was like, my daddy is famous. So they kind of know, like, I take them to my shows and stuff and they see me working. So they kind of see, me doing designs and stuff. They don't really look at my YouTube that much, but, they kind of see me in the news and, magazines and stuff. So they kind of know. They're more fine arts. So I did take them to the Spark 216, which was cool. So this was the first time they was using Spark. So I definitely need to pencil them in more. The thing is like, once I'm gone all day, once I come home, I kind of just pass out. So I really need to, engage more with them. So.
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially in obviously in your own home, but also outside of the home. I mean, the biggest thing I think you can do for youth is let them see you working. Let them understand that, I'm not just some slouch that sits around the house, and this is actually something that we struggle with in our house, is that my kids see me on the computer all the time, but they don't really know what I'm doing.
Right.
And so, I mean, I may as well be playing Fortnite all day. So, I mean, I think I have a hard time really illustrating for them what it is that I do. And, honestly, if you asked anybody in my family what I do for a living, they wouldn't really know.
No, he just sits.
Right. It would come something, well, I think he designs or he does something, but like they wouldn't have a clear understanding of what I do. And that's, a shortcoming on my end. But nonetheless, when I do have a project going or whatever, or if I've got a deadline and I'm really having to kill myself to hit something, like I think it's important for my kids to see me working hard like that.
Definitely.
And I, it sounds like you're doing that with your own kids as well as, obviously your kids by extension in the program.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a must because my father, he just went to work. My mom went to work and then, he just came back. I kind of knew what he did, but, I kind of take my kids to my class so they see me teaching and, they kind of see a lot of stuff. I think the videos, for the most part, my YouTube is kind of for them. So it's I can actually leave back a a legacy of my philosophy and how I feel on the YouTube channel. So when they do get older, they can kind of see my point of view. I think that's something that didn't necessarily have with my father. Like, you know, he kind of tell me stories now, but actually how he was feeling in the 60s and type of, you know, so I can do that now with YouTube.
I think that's cool. And I mean, back in the day, it used to be, oh, are you writing in your journal every night? You know, your kids are going to want to read that. And for me, I'm looking at this going like, essentially this podcast is my journal. I'm you know, I think it'll be cool, you know, 10 years from now to go back and listen and be like, oh, I remember that day. That was kind of fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. Because I always envy people who had like old tapes, videotapes of themselves when they was kids. You know, everybody has that now, but you know, me, I have like a audio tape. My grandmother used to record me sometimes when I was 5. So I do have that. So that's cool.
Yeah, I've got some old home videos, and every time they come out, I'm just embarrassed. Put that away.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it's a cool legacy for family or kids or whatever, and it's good to see them working. And obviously, that's you know, one of the beauties of the internet is, I mean, you'll be able to build this YouTube channel, and you'll leave a legacy or a lifetime of learning and positivity for not just your kids, but anybody else who stumbles across the videos. So it's pretty cool.
So we're getting up on that hour mark, and that's usually about when we kind of cut it. But I had one more question for you, and it's something off of your website, and it's your landing page. Like when it comes to first designed for social change, and it's got an awesome photo of you laying on that bench, which is dope, by the way.
Thanks.
Can you define what, in your mind, social change is and how it can have an effect on a community like Cleveland?
Social change is changing some type of change. So by definition, social change would be some type of change in government. So it's like 3 pieces to it. So Rosa Parks didn't want to sit at the back of the bus, so she sat at the front, and that kind of, you know, spearheaded, kind of sparked the movement for civil rights. So that was some type of social change. So I just kind of feel like the role of a designer should change into a more responsible role. And that is kind of giving back and being a design mentor to kind of change these guys' behavior and be, you know, a mentor towards them. They'll get better grades. They'll stay away from drugs, crime. And it's just a positive movement to help the youth, because a lot of them are like very behind in their grades, very behind in reading. So we have a lot of issues that kind of leads to just, you know, horrible conditions. So I think that, you know, I'm being very ambitious about, you know, design and social change, but I think I'm onto something.
Yeah, I think you are too. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Well, and be aware, Jamal. I mean, of course, you know, our channel is your channel, or our casa is su casa. So if you've got it like to promote or anything you'd like to do, you know, put out there, if you would like to do some kind of special podcast at some point with a couple of your students or something, we'd be more than happy to do what we can.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I would love to do that. That's awesome.
We'll go down to, you know, to make a couple of these introductions that Mike was alluding to. I mean, you may be aware of Christo, actually.
Yeah, you know, that's my guy, Future, man.
But yeah, I mean, Chris and Ryan, I mean, they're both really influential guys that are both working in this space. And, you know, not only would they be sort of privileged to work with a guy like you that's doing it for your own community, but maybe they could help give you a platform or take you to another level with it. Because I think that, you know, what you're doing, you know, in a micro world, you know, in terms of just helping the community in Cleveland is really valuable. But this is a problem that exists everywhere. You know, I mean, we've got underprivileged kids in every community, and they could all benefit from having mentors like yours, mentorship programs like yours.
Thank you.
So
I actually I have a book that do you like to read, or do you listen to audiobooks at all?
I do both.
There's a book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, I like Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, if you get a chance, read that book. One of the things that he talks about is like the New York subway system back in the day. Remember how back in the day, you didn't even want to go down in the subway. They were all graffiti tagged and all that stuff. He talked about how the city in New York kind of came around and was able to change that and what they did to overcome that problem. And I think there might be some points in there that might relate to what you're trying to do.
Cool. So, yeah, that sounds good. That's awesome. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, so then with that, Jay and Jamal, unless you've got anything else to say, the website is jayworking.com. You can also check out all the videos over at youtube.com/jayworking. You can also find Jamal on all the socials, of course, twitter.com/jayworking. I guess jayworking just about everywhere. But we will share all the links and everything in the show notes as well. So any parting shots, Jamal? Anything else you'd like to say before we get out of here?
No, it was just a pleasure, man. I thank you for, letting me be on this podcast, man. I love talking to you guys, and I would love to talk to you, in the future again, definitely.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for making the time. Seriously, thank you.
Yep, really appreciate it. And good luck with everything you're working on, Jamal, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Oh, okay, thank you.
With that, you can find this show and all the other family of pods at eggscast.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at eggsshow, or it's eggshow, excuse me. And you can find me, Ryan Rogar, r2mg.com or ryanrogar.com. And Mikey,
djontic.com, ONTIC.
All right. And with that, it's been a great one, and we'll see everybody next week.